The objective for this lesson is I can write decimals as fractions and fractions as decimals. And this is not really new. It's kind of the same thing we've been doing in the past few lessons. For instance, when we first started this unit, we talked about how 3/10 as a fraction is written like that as a decimal, and how 7/100 is written like that. And so what we're going to do is just, this is actually more of a review, but let's go down here because we're going to use area models to help. So they want you in this problem to go ahead and fill in the equation here because they want to show you how 3/10, you can see this is 3/10, right? 1, 2, 3 are filled in out of a total of 10, right? So 3/10, how that's the same as 30/100, which is this one right here. And you can see all they did, this was very similar to the area models we used to find equivalent fractions a couple of months ago. It's the same thing really, where we just drew horizontal lines in, like in this one, to make an equivalent fraction. Because you can see these strips right here, 1, 2, 3, they're still here, 1, 2, 3. They're just divided into smaller squares, but it just shows you how they're equivalent. So down here in the equation part, they have 3/10 filled in already, which is your first area model. And then basically they want you to write in, well, what did they multiply the 3 and the 10 by to get the equivalent fraction 30/100? And of course, 3 times 10 is 30. And whatever I do to the numerator, I have to do the denominator to get 30/100. All right? So what I want you to try first is, let me erase this, is here's the directions right here in the blue. I want you to fill in that multiplication equation, that very nicely drawn one I did, to prove that 7/10 is equal to 70/100. How would you write that? You can use the example down here if you forget. How would you write that equation to prove 7/10 is equal to 70/100? Right, so you do 7/10, and it's going to be equal to 70/100, right? So it's what did I do to the numerator and denominator to get 70/100? I multiplied each by 10, right? So what you're going to do in this lesson is you're going to review making decimals into fractions and fractions into decimals. And then you're going to be writing equations to show how those are equivalent as well. So before we go, let's just do a little more practice. Go ahead and do number 1, write this problem right here, 0.09, write that as a fraction. So again, if you can pronounce it, you can write it as a fraction. So how would I pronounce 0.9? Well, I just pronounce it 9. And how do I know what the denominator is? Well, it's where your number ends, the place value where your number ends. So my 9 is in the hundredths place, so I put it over 100. All right. Why don't you do number 2 and write 13/100 as a decimal? Okay, to write a fraction as a decimal, remember we write the decimal point. You take your numerator and you write it in. And then you make sure that the number you wrote down ends in whatever place value is in your denominator. So That's the tenths, that's the hundredths. So 13 ends in the hundredths, so that is correct. All right, go back and watch the video as many times as you need to before you do the independent work.